Hey everybody, it's the Gare Bear here. So as you guys can probably tell from the title of this video already, this video is going to be about the 5 things that I dislike about this Suburban. So let's go ahead and get right into it. Number 1. Yeah, so the number 1 biggest thing I had about the Suburban is obviously the gas mileage. You know, it's not surprising. This is a big, beefy truck, and it weighs like 7,000 pounds. So, you know, you're really getting what you expect. You know, it's like really bad. Like I'm looking right now, kind of flipping around. My average economy is like 13 miles per gallon. Okay, a little bit more, so that's not too bad. But you know, this definitely, if you're driving it every day, not gonna be on your wallet, I'm not gonna lie. So that's definitely my number 1 complaint with this vehicle, because everything else it does pretty well, but it's gonna drain your bank account. It's so expensive, not to maintain, but just to run daily. It's just the fuel, it's so bad. That's really something that anyone that wants to own one of these, even the newer ones, are not that much better. You really have to think about, it's not just the insurance or your car payments or whatever, gas. And you know, that's where this car really fails. Alright, so number 2 biggest complaint about this car is that I didn't know it even had one of these features, which is very important to get in the back of this car. I owned this car for 5 years and I didn't even know it until like last Christmas. But yeah, so most people, when they see this car, I have the 2 captain's chairs, and that's how mine is set up. You know, you can kind of get in here and slide around, but that's kind of inconvenient. There is no prominent instructions anywhere. You guys try to figure out how you can move this seat forward, and it's not that one, by the way, which is also another side complaint as part of this whole complaint, is that that doesn't move at all forward to get people into the back. But this one didn't even realize the little lever down here, which is the same as on the other side. If you actually pull it all the way, and then you go ahead and pull forward on the seat back, the whole thing slides. But yeah, so now with the seat forward, you can go ahead and put your foot in and just climb right up and you're back in the car. You know, it's super easy to get in, and that is like a super big plus. You know, if you've got lots of kids, you don't want them scraping up, you know, your leather and stuff. You know, just pull the seat forward and let them crawl in. It's easy, especially if you're thinner. But yeah, they don't have any like little label or anything about what this does. You know, I've noticed before that the tracks were different, but I didn't really, you know, pay that much attention to it. And yeah, you know, I did buy this car, you know, secondhand, so I'm sure, you know, if you bought this brand new, then the salesman probably would have told you, yada, yada, yada. But yeah, I just kind of wish that GM had put some type of label or something in there, and don't tell me to look at the owner's manual. Okay, I know that that's like a good option, I suppose, but you know, that's what didn't even come into my mind, that this could be an option, which is actually really cool if you've got little kids, and definitely a feature that, you know, I would have appreciated to know about a few years ago. So number 2 complaint, not enough labeling on levers and just pointing out features for people that are dumb like me. All right, complaint number trace. Definitely is going to be the departure angle on this car. So as you guys can see, you know, the rear end of this really sticks out pretty far. She's a big girl. Yeah, honestly, this is a bigger deal than most people would think. You know, I have problems just when I'm leaving my work. If I have people in the back of my car when we got to lunch or something, that extra weight is just enough to lower down the car, and also, you know, that big ass hitch definitely is not helping. But this thing will bottom out a little bit and scrape. Just leaving, you know, it's kind of a deep gutter, you know, leaving my work's parking lot. But still, that's an issue. You know, if you want to take this thing off-road, this is definitely going to be a weak spot for that. You're going to scrape things up, and I've collected mud and stuff underneath that rear bumper just because it scrapes. And, you know, there's nothing really to get around that unless you want to go ahead and do a lift, which, you know, that's pretty expensive. And a lot of people that buy these probably aren't going to do that. Even the newer one, well, I shouldn't say a lot of people, but it's definitely expensive, and that takes away some of the utility, which is why a lot of people buy this as like a major car, you know, the main car for their household. And they don't want to ruin that utility, you know, getting the kids in and stuff. So that is definitely something you might want to think about. Now, what would have been nice is possibly, you know, if you're familiar with like Range Rovers and stuff like that, you know, a lot of times their rear end kind of slopes upwards, and some people don't really like the way that looks, and that's fine. Yeah, because this is really squared off nicely, just like the rest of the vehicle, and you know, it looks good. It's a cohesive look. But if it did angle up, that would definitely help with your departure angle. So that is something to think about. Maybe if you wanted to modify this, I mean, that would be, you need some auto body, you know, knowledge and stuff like that. But definitely GM, if you're listening, and you want to make a more off-road worthy vehicle, you know, that's something maybe they could make a Suburban or probably Tahoe in the future, you know, with a special designed rear end like that. That'd be pretty cool. All right, complaint number 4, and I hope you guys can see me. It's getting a little dark out here now. But yeah, one of my major what's my major complaint on the inside of the vehicle is just the plethora of cheap GM plastic throughout this car. I don't know how much, it doesn't really show up that well on the camera right now. Maybe I'll go ahead and do this tomorrow. But all the door panels, the dash, the buttons, everything is just this cheap GM plastic. You guys can't even tell here if I turn the car on a little bit or turn the lights on. You guys can see the radio buttons are just like peeling like crazy. And I don't abuse this car, and you know, I can't really say what the people before me did, but the dashes on this generation of GM SUVs and trucks are notorious for peeling, and that's just pretty shitty because, you know, these aren't like cheap cars, but they definitely put in subpar materials, and that's just not okay, you know, for, you know, what people were paying for these. Definitely a major drawback. I'm glad that they've definitely switched away from those days and the current products that they're offering. But yeah, just that is definitely by far my biggest complaint on the inside, is just how cheap materials, how cheap they looked, and just why GM, why? Yeah, just the peeling paint on the dash is crazy that's even a problem to worry about. But the leather seats are nice, and you know, everything else is okay, but yeah, cheap build quality, cheap plastics, cheap material. It's no good. Okay, so we're back here in the daytime so you guys can get a better view of what I was talking about in the last little clip, which is, yeah, so the dash here on the car, you know, from a distance, everything looks, you know, whatever. It's 2000s GM, it's plasticky, but you know, it looks okay. But you get close, and I don't know if you guys can tell, but like up here, yeah, I repaired this when I got the car using the spray paint that I actually ended up using in my other video that I made where I repainted the speaker grates in this car. But yeah, so you know, I had peeling paint here. There's little bits, you know, coming up kind of this over the dash, you know, little bits. It's not too big, but definitely, you know, something that makes the car look kind of cheap and shitty. And then you guys can really blatantly see right here on the radio, like, look at that. I mean, you can barely see, like, there's no arrows left on the Seek Scan button. It's just worn off completely. The AC controls and stuff, those were all totally trash. I actually just ended up replacing this. You get this on Amazon, the whole AC control digital thing. It was like $100 or something a couple years ago. But yeah, you know, it's just the cheap plastics. You can, I don't know if you guys can see in the light, but right there, that plastic's just kind of worn away. And it's not like people are rubbing this all the time, you know, it's just cheap. But yeah, so definitely my biggest interior complaint is just all the cheap plastics. It's really like, why? You know, it's just so cheap. It's just, ugh. This is why people didn't buy American cars. They started going to imports and stuff. You know, Toyotas and stuff are still cheap plastic, but at least it fits better. You know, this stuff is kind of wobbly. I know this is a 14-year-old car now and everything, but still, just things shouldn't be so cheap and so wibbly wobbly. I mean, look at like that. It's just a mess. Okay, and I have one more bonus complaint, and that really, it isn't a GM specific problem or even an American car problem. This is really just a sign of the times and just what was standard and what was, you know, technology being developed and stuff at the time. But this car, you will notice, so I have the Bose radio, so it's got the 6-disc CD changer and everything, but you'll notice it's lacking a tape player. And what's also unfortunate is that at this time, you know, iPhones hadn't even been invented yet when this car was made, and iPods just really weren't even a big thing, I don't think, yet. There's no aux port or anything. There's no way to connect, you know, an iPhone or, you know, any other music streaming device into this radio, unless you want to use one of those shitty, like, over-the-air radio frequency things, and I'm not doing that. But yeah, so that's kind of a dilemma. If you're gonna buy one of this generation of Suburban, if you like to listen to music a lot of times I just have to play it on my phone and then just sit it in the center console. But that's not really as nice as like in the Corvette where you can just plug it in and go. So that's something to think about when you buy one of these cars. Or you can always just go and pay $200 or whatever and get a new head unit. That also works. Okay, so my fifth and final complaint with Burby is the cup holders situation. Yeah, so my main problem, it's not really the girthiness of the cup holders. Yes, I said girth. But rather the height of the cup holders. As you can see, these are venti cups from Starbucks, or the coffee place, whatever. But yeah, so this kind of gives you a good frame of reference. And as you can see, the width of the cup fits perfectly fine in there. Matter of fact, it's a bit too loose, which I will say, you know, these little flappies are probably worn down, you know, from, you know, the number of years this car, it's pretty old now. But definitely the height is an issue. As you can see, it's very wibbly wobbly, which would be detrimental. Oops, I almost spilled a little bit. But yeah, the cup holders inside the Suburban are definitely a major drawback in regard to the interior of the car. And you know, we're Americans, so you know, we always have to have a drink with us. I know maybe Europeans don't really get that, but we always have something to drink in the car. And some people like to eat in the car too. I'm not really on that. But yeah, so that is actually, it's a bigger issue. You know, I'm being a little trivial here. I'm keep going back and forth the camera. But I'm being trivial, but I mean, that is something to keep in mind. But yeah, so those are the 5 things I hate the most about my Suburban. And you know, as you can see, I'm being pretty critical, but honestly, those are so minute things compared to how much joy and just how much I love this truck. I mean, this is my baby. You know, I'm never gonna get rid of it. You know, I'm gonna run it to the ground if I can. You know, except for the gas mileage, maybe we'll see. But yeah, honestly, you know, I really had to think hard about, you know, little finicky things that I don't like about this car. But in general, it's been good. It's been a good workhorse, and it's reliable. You know, a lot of people kind of think about American cars and think, you know, I don't know, I'll just buy like a Toyota or something. This car has given me no problems at all in like the last 80,000 miles that I've owned it. And I would definitely recommend one of these, you know, if you need to carry a lot of people on a regular basis, or if you just want like a truck-based SUV, you know, these are really solid and you can get them really cheap now. So definitely something to consider. But anyhow, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you liked it, give it a big thumbs up and please subscribe. You can follow me on Instagram at GareBearVillegas. I'll put it over my head somewhere. But yeah, thank you guys for watching so much, and I'll see you next time. Also, if you guys have any suggestions for future videos or mods or anything you guys want to see me do, put them in the comments below and I'll go ahead and take a look and, you know, maybe you influence a future video. We'll see.